So the first advanced question asks for thoughts on attracting more doctors and healthcare professionals to the area to meet both the immediate needs and future staffing of a new hospital. There's also a situation in Warkworth that was submitted by another resident. They have lost 3 doctors due to retirement or career change. A number of residents no longer have a family doctor or nurse practitioner. And while the responsibility for health care rests primarily with the federal and provincial governments, what would you in your role of mayor or deputy mayor do to attract and retain doctors and or nurse practitioners for Trent Hills? So we'll be rotating the order around. A random draw was selected to determine the order, and all the questions will be asked of the mayor and the deputy mayor candidates. So up first we have Susan.
Thank you, Nancy. Well, I have been involved with the nurse practitioners, and I have been staying in touch and filling out questionnaires on behalf of our community to let the Nurse Practitioner Association know how desperately we need at least to start with nurse practitioners. And they, like the doctors, have submitted an application to the Ministry of Health indicating that we, as a rural community, need nurse practitioners. The province has a methodology where you have to submit an application. And I hope that our application for nurse practitioners is going to be successful. And if elected, you can count on me advocating for nurse practitioners as a start. I'd love to get doctors in. There's 2 different types of doctors we need in this community. We need family doctors, which so many people believe that they really would like to have. And we have to have hospitalists. Those are the type of doctors that work in our hospitals. Doesn't matter who we need, I will be there, I will advocate, I will move our command or our demand or our request up the food chain and make sure that they know we're here and that we want to be recognized. I'm not afraid to push for what we need, and that's what I will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Bob?
Thank you. Well, this question's come up time and time again, and it's understandable as we watch the healthcare crisis unfold in front of our eyes. There were challenges in the system before the global pandemic, but they have multiplied and intensified since 2019. Let's be clear, healthcare is a provincial mandate. However, we have a role to play. Trent Hills has made financial contributions to assist with physician recruitment and retention for the last 20 years, increasing our commitment to $75,000 a year in 2017. Our staff is on the committee for retention and attends the events to promote our community. I feel our key role, both as a municipality and as individual citizens, is to be healthcare champions, lobbying our provincial government, supporting the new Campbellford Memorial Hospital campaign, and the ongoing work of the Hospital Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mike?
Thank you, Nancy. Like anything, we gravitate to shiny new objects. So our new hospital in itself is going to attract physicians, healthcare workers that are going to want to come to that. That's where one of the spots we need to focus our advocacy on upper governments is to get that hospital built. That will assist somewhat in attracting new staff. Like many sectors, attraction has changed from one thing that was mainly monetary to more of a lifestyle compensation. We have to keep up with our those way of life, active transportation systems, increasing our wellness recreation offerings, which includes that wellness center that we've been talking about. Those types of lifestyle changes is what attracts a lot of a younger generation right now, ones that are stepping up, ones that need to step up, and it includes physicians and medical individuals that are wanting to come to this way. Dr. Williams spoke to us a couple months ago as a council, and one of the things is increasing costs as most of the physicians work as independent contractors is the type of situation where they're working. That we can help look into campus-style organizations. Perhaps there's costs that they can share amongst the different physicians so that those costs are spread out and they're not each individually having an office or that type of thing, similar to what our current situation is with the family health team. And I just learned this past week, speaking to a resident, that the nursing test comes from an American-style test, and maybe we need to look at that and advocate to the province as to how those testings are done and after graduation.
Thank you, Mike. Bill?
Nancy, I'm afraid I'm unprepared for that question. I don't seem to have it, and this is the problem. I apologize.
No problem. Okay. Did you want the question repeated? Or
Well, you can, I'll try.
So the first advanced question provides, asks for thoughts on attracting more doctors and healthcare professionals to the area to meet both the immediate needs and future staffing of a new hospital. And then there's also another question that was added to that. Here's the situation in Warkworth. They have lost 3 doctors due to retirement or career change. A number of residents no longer have a family doctor or nurse practitioner. And while the responsibility for healthcare rests primarily with the federal and provincial governments, what would you in your role of mayor or deputy mayor do to attract and retain doctors and or nurse practitioners for Trent Hills?
Well, certainly we do need that. We've lost 3 doctors here at Campbellford as well. I'm lucky to have a doctor, which is pretty unusual these days. It's important that we do work with the province. It is their realm in that sense. It's under their control. But as a municipality, we have to work hard to lobby them and get the things promised, such as our hospital was promised to us before the last election. Bringing the type of workers with the doctors, the nurse practitioners, and all the staff that go along with the hospital, they need housing. They need schools. You know, they want good schools. They want to know they're going to be welcome here and that they're going to have a nice life here. Housing is a critical issue everywhere. And if we're to develop a new hospital, we need to develop housing along with that so that people have a place to live. The federal government is another source of funding that we need to go after. We have to fight for ourselves and make sure we're getting our share, and then do everything we can through fundraising and any effort we can to support that and get the job done. So it's up to us to push hard and do our best to get what we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So we'll have 1 minute on the timer for the next question, and we'll start with Bob. Respondents to a bike action survey identified improvements to active transportation infrastructure, such as adding bike lanes, improving trails, and improving route connectivity for bikes in Trent Hills. Is making active transportation improvements a priority for you? And if so, how do you propose to make our municipality more bike-friendly? Bob?
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, I think that bikes are part of our future. I see more active transportation through biking. We have a lot of trails that connect. We have trails in all 3 urban centers. The ones in Campbellford do connect to Ferris Park. When we, as far as any of the county roads that go through it, when we redo a county road, they do add a bike lane to the surface. So I think we're looking at this and trying to provide the best we can as far as bikes go. I think we've worked on it. It's a work in progress, and it'll improve as we go down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, thank you. I spoke to active transportation earlier, and active transportation includes many things. One of them is bike, and we'll look at that, but it also includes water transportation, such as kayak for recreational type thing. It also includes walking. Our transportation budget for the municipality is $9,683,000 and change. Going forward, we need to be looking at that type of active transportation. That plan is in place. We're working on that plan. That's something that needs to be included into that budget as well. They don't work separately, they work together, especially coming into the future. Active transportation is also part of education. So it's not just having infrastructure in place, it's also making sure that the residents are educated on how we can share the transportation systems both actively and our usual ones, which is vehicles.
Thank you. Bill?
Bicycles, trails, sidewalks, safe ways to travel, these are all important to us, and I see the need for safer access to the roads than we have at the moment. I ride my bike around town, and it can be dicey at times. People don't tend to look for that a lot because there are not a lot of people out there, and I think there would be more if they had a safe place to travel. We all know about our trails, and there's plenty of places to ride your bike, but if we need to widen roads, for instance, to add a bike lane, we would look into that, absolutely. I would look into that and push for that because I think it's necessary. Funding for that, well, this is a budgetary issue. We would have, we would look for grants. I support through the Rotary, we support Bike Action and
Thank you.
thank you.
Susan?
I spoke to representatives from Bike Action, and one of the challenges that they face is that although we have lots of trails and they recognize them, and they are very grateful for them, there are segments of those trails that need work. We also have a number of community members who are willing to do the work, but they do need some support. Also, I think it's really important that we look at our community holistically. We have had challenges at the hospital with the ERs, so if we can keep our residents healthy and happy, then we can keep them out of the ER. And bicycling is good for your physical health, walking is excellent for your mental health. So I want to support these trails, and I want us to become a capital community known for their trails. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next question will be 1 minute. Starting us off will be Mike. Pedestrian safety is becoming increasingly more dangerous to travel the urban centers due to aggressive drivers that do not follow speed limits or pay attention when turning at traffic lights. If elected, will you support photo radar and red light cameras, and/or what other actions will you take to address this problem in Trent Hills? Mike, 1 minute, please.
Photo radar and red light. I have no issue with supporting that. It's definitely a budget thing. I know it's been looked at in the past. It may be cooperating with other municipalities on how that we're able to implement that, but it's definitely not something that is cheap. So when we're looking at it on a budget aspect, it gets challenging. Safety, pedestrian safety is utmost important, and again, I spoke to this earlier. I pushed for a safe crossing on Bridge Street South in Hastings because there is no safe way to get downtown if you have to cross Bridge Street, because there's only one sidewalk across the county bridge that goes across the river. We are going to get to pedestrian crosswalks there. That's a start. Is that the solution? I'm not sure, but it's a start that increases the safety of pedestrians, and that's what we need to look at, a start. Maybe it's not the finish, but it needs to be a start.
Thank you. Bill?
Ask that question again, please.
Pedestrian safety is becoming increasingly more dangerous to travel the urban centers due to aggressive drivers that do not follow speed limits or pay attention when turning at traffic lights. If elected, will you support photo radar and red light cameras, and/or what other actions would you take to address this problem in Trent Hills?
I would certainly support cameras in our town. Pedestrian safety is a huge priority, and with our population aging the way it is, it's becoming apparent that it gets worse and worse for the older. I saw a woman this morning trying to cross to get to the post office, and she was barely starting across the street before the light changed. And there are people, you know, starting to move, and I thought, well, how is she supposed to cross the street with her walker? You know, how is she supposed to maneuver? And that was a sad thing to see. But if we're to crack down on that, we need to monitor it, and we need more policing to be on hand and to patrol. I live on Oliver Street, and I have motorcycles coming down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning, loud ones, regularly.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Susan?
Well, I know as a young person, I love to drive fast, and I don't think there are many of us that didn't. But it is an issue in our community, and I think we need to address it. However, I am loath to put photo radar and anything else out onto the tax bill at this point. I just don't see that that's valuable. I'd like to see more policing, and I also think more education is important. We need to start educating the teenagers. I know when we were going to school, we saw these terrible movies about what happens when you speed, but I think we need to bring that back home again and remind people that we are a community. And the other thing is, you have to set the example, and I try really, really hard to make sure that I follow the speed limits, and that's what a leader should do. Lead by example, talk to the kids, and let's see what we can do without incurring more costs.
Thank you. Bob?
Thank you. I attended the AMO conference in Ottawa in August, and photo radar is a coming thing. But we must realize that right now, photo radar, you can only use it in community safety zones. And right now in Trent Hills, the only places that would really benefit would be Hastings at the public school, Warkworth at their public school. Trent Drive is a community safety zone because of the seniors' residence. So, but I did find a company in Ottawa that is willing to come in and supply photo radar on a cost shared basis, where they put the equipment in and they take a percentage. On the other hand, I also think that our new traffic sergeant is now having I see more police out in front of us, so thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So next question will be 1 minute as well. And Bill will be starting with this question. So this ratepayer is looking at improvements to non-motorized pathways. They took it upon themselves recently to weed the depressed curb in Hastings so pedestrians and people with wheelchairs, baby carriages, walkers, and bundled buggies could safely use the sidewalk. And I quote, "The weeds were so thick it would be almost impossible for a wheelchair to maneuver the pathway. Pedestrians' pathways don't get fair consideration, repair, and maintenance when huge sums of infrastructure dollars get tossed around on roads. People should get respect over vehicles. Please get in a wheelchair or push a baby carriage all around town and see how you feel." End quote. The question, if elected, what will you do to improve the non-motorized pathways and make this a safe, eco-friendly, walkable community? And we're starting with Bill.
Thank you. Just a week or so ago, we installed a wheelchair access ramp in the children's playground behind the Rotary Club. It's gravel, and they needed something to cover that. It's a rubber type thing, and we installed that so that the wheelchair could get up to the swings, basically. These are the sorts of things that we need to improve on. Pathways are often neglected because people don't drive on them, and that's the plain truth. They have to be kept clear, and they have to be kept in good repair. As for the cost, well, I'm not in council, I'm not privy to the budget, but these are the things that I would scrutinize and push for. Safety is always a priority with me, and everyone should be safe wherever they're traveling. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
So I go back to a holistic approach to our community, and I realize that there are things that we have to spend money on. Roads are very, very important. But it's also, how do you take care of the little things? The taxpayers, the residents, they see the weeds. And we need to find a way within our budget to ensure that our municipality looks as good as we think it is. And that's really important. And it's all about the little things, and the weeds are an issue. So whether we hire students in the summer to do the weeds, I mean, we do have students that do the watering and stuff. I know it's not a joyous job, but it is the small things that the taxpayers see. That is what they worry about. Or they don't worry about it, but it annoys them. And so if we can eliminate that, we eliminate complaints. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
Thank you. I would say that if you have an area where you think there should be some action taken, that you phone me or phone one of your councillors and tell us where it is, and we will see that something gets done about it. Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. Here? There you go. Hello. Okay, now. There you go. Kind of. There we go. Yeah. So. I'm gonna keep speaking. Can you hear me? All right. The budget. Sorry. There you go. So the budget is a public document, and every 3 months of every year, it's up for public discussion. So it's on the website. All of the numbers are there. Anyone, including you out there, can go and look at them. There's 532 kilometers of roads. There's 42 kilometers of sidewalk in our municipality. So keeping those sidewalks clean, especially for accessibility reasons, is mostly important. This is something that I addressed with staff earlier this year, and it becomes challenging, but it's a manual process that needs to be done, and it needs to be worked into those staff work orders that is on their daily, weekly, monthly, keeping those sidewalks cleared. And again, letting us know when they get out of control. But at this point, they shouldn't. Shuffle some staff. Let's make sure they get done.
Thank you. So next question will also be 1 minute, and starting us off will be Susan. There are areas in downtown Campbellford owned by the municipality that look very uninviting and run down. For example, municipal parking lots that have a lot of weeds, crushed and rusted culverts, round hydro poles, low-hanging loose electrical wires, bent, rusted, broken guardrails, and garbage lying around. In the evening, these areas are also not well lit and can be intimidating. The lamp posts are in bad condition and need of repair, as is the colored concrete throughout the downtown. What would you do to address these issues and to promote the revitalization of these areas? Susan?
I was on the downtown revitalization for Campbellford, and we did try and address some of these issues, but it goes back to my previous answer. It's a holistic approach to our community. I don't want to sound like a broken record, or that's the only answer I have to give you. But we have to prioritize the things that we want to spend our money on. I know the big ticket items eat up a lot of our budget. But again, this is what the taxpayer sees when they go to get their groceries, when they're walking around, when they're walking their dog. They're paying taxes. They want to see things that are near and dear to their heart. We have to find a way to make our community as neat and tidy and clean as we want it to be. If it means we hire one person who does weeding, then so be it. This is the second question we've had, and it's an issue at the door when I go campaigning. Thank you.
Bob?
Thank you. I hear the complaint, and I think it's something we'll have to discuss with staff. I mean, it is a budget item, and it's to me, as Susan said, it's things that need to be looked after, and we will talk to staff and look at these areas, and I'm making a note on some of the ideas and places, and I will go and look at them. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, thank you. Part of this, in each of the communities, we have revitalization associations or business associations. We have the Hastings Revitalization, the Campbellford BIA, and the Warkworth Business Association, and working in partnership and collaboration with those groups to get the information back and really understand what needs to be done is super important. They have a base that they're knowledgeable, and they really care for those areas. So getting the specifics on what we need to do, a collaboration with them are great. Lighting, safety, definitely. I mean, lighting is a safety issue, and I mean, it needs to be a part of everyone that sees it as well. Let's make sure we know when those lights are out. I can't, staff's not out there all the time looking for lights, and make sure we get that. Community Development Advisory Committee is set up, and it's a group that is of residents that goes on that board. So that also helps to bring those types of issues to council.
And Bill?
Yes, I agree with a lot of the comments. There are some very untidy spots in Campbellford that I can speak to. Just crossing the bridge towards our downtown, and there's some pretty rough looking buildings there. They're not very welcoming, and that's unfortunate. We need to clean up, and there's lots of things we could do that would not cost a lot of money in my estimation. But again, as a community, we have to report things when we see a problem. Otherwise, it could linger longer or get worse. It's like the broken window syndrome. If you don't fix it, another window breaks and another window, and then the crime. I mean, this is a proven fact. We can't let our town disintegrate any further. We need to stay on top of it, keep it clean, and perhaps murals and such would be a good idea to clean things up and put local artists to work. There's plenty of ways we can look at things. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be 2 minutes for the candidates, and we will start with Bob. According to this ratepayer, in comparison with neighboring municipalities of similar size, Trent Hills is a very expensive place to live, with considerably higher taxes and water bills. Why are they higher, and what can be done to bring them in line with other communities?
Thank you. It's true that our taxes are sometimes higher. I see Joe is paying particular attention to this answer. When we amalgamated, we did a lot of upgrades in the water and sewers, and which caused, because it's a user-pay system, it caused the bills to go higher. But what we've seen over the last few years is our neighbors have had to improve their infrastructure, and now we are sort of in the middle. We are, I think, we're out of 7 municipalities in Trent Hills. We're the 4th as far as the cost for water and sewers. So it costs. It's a user-pay system, so we don't make money on it. We charge enough to cover the cost and to put some into reserves to repair as we go along. So it is what it is. We do not waste money. As far as our taxes go, we are as diligent as we can be as far as spending the money, providing the services that people ask for. We have done numerous studies on each department as far as a service delivery review. So we ask people what's out there, what they want, and that's what we provide. And there's a cost to doing it, and it's basically a cost of staying and living in this community.
Mike?
Thank you. I'm not going to dispute that no one wants to pay taxes or water, really. If we look, and I'm going to go back to our transportation and our roads. In Trent Hills, we have 532 kilometers of roads. The county, which includes all of Northumberland County, only looks after 503 kilometers of roads. We have a budget that is significantly less than them. So, of course, we don't want to increase it. To put that into perspective, the county has 89,000 residents. We have 13 in change. Trying to come up with the same amount of dollars to look after the same increasing number of roadways as the county. That's just one sort of example. In our case, I know keeping that tax rate to a 2.5% for the municipal portion is important, and we've been able to do that. Unfortunately, you can't. As a deputy mayor, can't keep the county from where they need to be. But ours is 2.5. That's about a cost of living increase. So to me, it's reasonable. Let's not exceed, but we still have to be able to stretch those dollars to get what we need done. The Thompson Bridge situation last year is a good example where we need to advocate for responsibility of who spends money. That was a county issue that had lingered for 20 or more years, and at that time it was going to be come to an issue with the municipality with a broken bridge, and we advocated to make sure that was done. Yes, we still have to pay the taxes on getting that done, but it's spread out over a county, not just a municipality with such smaller tax base. So advocating for that is one way to help.
And Bill?
Yes, I would agree. We are small in numbers, and that drives up the cost for everyone. As Mike just said, we all have roads and infrastructure to maintain, and the more people you have, the cheaper that is. This is why it's important that we're attracting more residents to our area to increase our tax base and help deal with these problems. No one likes to pay high water bills and taxes, and the language in my house gets pretty colorful when the bills come in. I can attest to that. But that's basically it. We have to drive ourselves to find solutions to find funding to support this, and we have to chase down every dollar we can, be it from the provincial government or the federal government, to help us in that. And this is something that is going to be a hard thing to tackle. Taxes don't usually stop going up, but we can work our hardest to maintain them as best we can if we come up with the creative solutions. Thank you.
Susan?
I guess my solution is a little bit naive, and I'm probably not going to garner a lot of support. But I have been out door knocking, and water prices are a #1 topic. But I think if you explain to people why they are that expensive and give them facts, and maybe have a town hall in each of the 3 communities and have people who know why they are that expensive come in and talk to them, tell them how much it costs to run the system, tell them the oversight that is required, explain the delivery costs, then maybe some of them will understand. And that is what I believe is necessary. To just tell people, well, you know what, that's what it costs, what do you want us to do? I don't accept that as a way to treat taxpayers, I'm sorry.
Thank you. The next question will be 1 minute. And I think our candidates might know what's coming next because they've been at the ward meetings. What will you do to ensure our taxes are not raised in the next couple of years to give people a chance to rebound after COVID? Ask this ratepayer. Or not me, sorry. I'll start with this ratepayer asked. We'll start with Mike.
I'm not going to make that promise. Sorry if that's not the answer anyone wants, but it goes back to what my last explanation on the last question was. You know, we're going to do our best to keep it down. No one wants to pay more taxes, and it's a matter of looking at the needs of what the municipality is just to operate, and maybe some of those wants need to go off, and that happens regularly with especially with our large project list, and it gets shuffled. So what was perhaps a want last year has now become a need because maybe a system has failed or something like that. So shuffling those wants and needs to keep to that, you know, let's get under 3%. Let's make sure it stays at a cost of living at least. I don't think anyone can expect that that taxes are just going to stall. Otherwise, we stall as a municipality.
And Bill?
If taxes are necessary, that's no doubt. I would just have to say that no matter what you're spending your taxes on any project, you have to scrutinize every penny, or I should say nickel. We don't have those anymore. You have to pay attention to every detail and see where you can find the savings to support the projects you want to get off the ground. And of course, they have to be prioritized in their most urgent need. And that's basically it. Thank you.
So, as Mayor of Trent Hills, I would have little or no say over what the county requires from our residents or the province for education. However, I am a little disheartened to hear that we can't find any economies of scale or look for other solutions. I don't know that it is possible or not, but to sort of just say that we can't keep taxes from going up doesn't make me feel very positive. I think we can find economies of scale, and I think we should go out to the people and say, you know, if we hold taxes steady for 2 years, you are going to have to do without the following things. How do you feel about that? And if everybody comes up and shows up at meetings and says, yeah, you know what, we're good with that, then, you know, we'll have to look at it seriously. But I would really like to think that we have more concern for the citizens to say, no, we can't. We can't.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Nancy. As mayor, I can talk at the county. I sit on the county as a county councillor, and I do have a say in the taxation at that level. So I represent this municipality at the county, and for the last 2 years I've been the warden. I think what we should understand is that probably 85% of the tax dollars we take in are committed, whether it's to infrastructure, salaries, everything that we do as a municipality. So we scrutinize every dollar, and if there's a way to save money, we're going to do it. But I don't think to be responsible, you should say we cannot, that we can hold the line for 2 years. I think the Mel Lasman tried that in Toronto, and look what happened up there.
Thank you. The next question will be a 2-minute response. Do you believe there's a duplication of duties between Lower Trent Conservation and the municipality of Trent Hills, mainly having to do with severances and building permits? If so, what do you suggest should be done? We're starting with Bill this time.
The shorter answer is no. They do concern themselves. They concern themselves with separate concerns. They do concern themselves with separate concerns. I understand the process. I apologize. They have separate concerns, and I understand that the process can be arduous and take a lot of time. Perhaps there is a way to streamline the process between the two. We can investigate that, but at the moment they do have different mandates. Thank you.
I think we should keep the two organizations separate. Our staff have enough to do. The world is ever evolving, moving fast forward, and you can't expect our employees to be up on every item that might impact us. The conservation people know what's happening. They know what the federal rules and regulations are. And I think it is good, not that I'm a huge fan of many layers of government, but I would like to keep them in place because I like to have an extra set of eyes when it comes to our environment. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there's duplication. The Lower Trent has staff with specialization around ecology and the environment. I think we work in concert to find ways to locate building envelopes in permitted lands while maintaining setbacks for protected areas. A severance or rezoning of the Planning Act is a Planning Act application. The municipality has agreements with all three conservation authorities within our jurisdiction to provide formal comments on planning. Building permits do not fall under the Planning Act, although setbacks to wetlands do apply for any development under our jurisdiction. Yes, there are issues with the funding models for CAs, but we should not be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We need to protect the environment and take an evidence-based approach to development. Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you, Nancy. Conservation authorities are not a level of government. They are a separate body. They're there to protect you. They're there to protect the environment. They're there for safe water. If anyone remembers Walkerton, I don't think I need to say anything more. They have separate duties, and it's combined into one application or decision. So that's sometimes where it might get a little bit gray as to what a municipal and what a conservation responsibility is. The planning process is governed through the Planning Act, the Municipal Act. There's a need to consult with the Conservation Authority Act, the Provincial Policy Statement, the Clean Water Act, protecting our drinking water source areas, and the growth plan for the Greater Horseshoe. All of that is what the Conservation Authority does. That is mandated by the provincial government. If the Conservation Authority doesn't do that under an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding that each of the municipalities go into, we have to bring that in-house. To bring that in-house is a lot of knowledge that we have to bring to the municipality above the staff that we have. Those memorandum of understandings give us the access to professionalism, give us the access to those individuals that know the acts, that know the responsibilities, and they are professional in environment, they're in water, in natural heritage features. So to say it's duplicated, no, it is not. It's what's needed, and right now that's how we work so that we can get the professional advice that we need to make the decisions for those planning acts, the severances, zonings, and that type of thing. We just don't have the professionalism in-house to do that. And again, it becomes a budget issue if we want to look at what the cost is for them or what the cost is for us.
Thank you. So we are at the halfway mark, number 9. This is a 2-minute response, another question that was provided in advance. In February 2020, Trent Hills residents served by wells and or septic systems were told they had to hook up to municipal water and or sewer where these services were available, regardless of their physical, geographical, or financial circumstances. A similar bylaw passed by the City of Kawartha Lakes several years earlier encountered significant opposition and has since been amended twice to give residents the choice of hooking up or paying a reasonable surcharge to continue using their own resources. So let's ratepayers done some homework. The Trent Hills bylaw, they say, is punitive and narrowly focused and enforced. Will you support amending the bylaw as was done in Kawartha Lakes? So this question also included a link to the story reported by Mike Kawartha, along with some suggestions for a compromise. So the question is, will you support amending the bylaw as was done in Kawartha Lakes? So starting off with Susan.
I asked a couple of people how they felt about this because I will tell you I am on a well and I have my own septic system. But I'm not going to be hooking up anytime soon because I'm way too far out of town. But it will be an issue moving forward. We have a number of developments underway, and as new developments are created, those people who have their own wells and septics will feel the pressure to hook up. I found the question a little bit disconcerting because it said it doesn't matter whether they can afford it or not, and that's a little bit harsh. I know it's not the focus of the question, but I just found it a little off-putting. I think that the other part of the question that I felt was really appropriate. If their septic system fails and they're close to other people, then obviously they should come on to the system. A lot of people who have wells and septics are very responsible. It's their source of water and sewage. I think they should have a choice. I think that it is appropriate that they can maintain their own water and wells. I know it's come before council a couple of times to tax people who don't have city water. But right now, I think that we should be willing to allow people who have their own wells that they maintain, their own septic systems that they pump out, to retain them. And as the systems, as the communities expand and get closer, if they want to join on to the town, then that should be their choice.
Actually, council has had a very measured approach to this issue. When this came up, the impacted residents totaled 34. 7 people have already complied by hooking into the water and sewers. 11 people are in progress, so that's over 50%. All parties were given 3 years to hook up to the services with a discounted connection charge. I mean, this issue is a good example of challenges faced by municipal council. Sometimes you have to give people answers they aren't going to like, and this is a complex one. But we just discussed the fact of cost of water and sewers, and it is a rule that when the water and sewers go by your house, you're given a timeline to hook up to them, and I think it's only fair that everybody play by the same rule. You know, we are growing, and I think we need to have everybody on the same page. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. I'm not going to go into the facts. Bob just gave you all the facts. As urban boundaries expand, we need to, over time, accommodate for those housing needs in our municipality. This is one of the matters that we need to look at. At not one time as a sitting council member did I ever consider this a punitive measure or giving a penalty to someone because of it. I will always support looking at changes in bylaws. If we don't look at supporting change or even look at the change in bylaws, we're not moving ahead. So yes, there's always time to look at bylaws. I guess a couple questions I have is the facts, and since this is so specific, the municipality, for one, has never taxed people or considered taxing people on well or septic. We'll get that out there. But with the question, it asks about a failure, and my question is, we need to look at, if we look at this suggestion, what do we consider a failure? You know, is a water line leak a failure? Is a water pump in your well seizes, is that a failure? Is a pressure tank considered part of the system? There's a lot of moving components. So yes, let's look. You know, I'm up to looking at different bylaws, but again, we need to look at deeper into it and the facts of what that is. Long and the short, yeah, let's look at the facts, I guess, and before I can make a yay and a nay, and that's just how I operate.
And Bill?
Yeah, I have to agree with a lot of the comments. Water's a tricky issue. Water's a shared resource. No one owns water. The whole world shares the fresh water on the planet, and we have to manage it in a safe and effective way. But however, we could perhaps look at an amendment if we need to for the, you know, for the septics and whatnot. I agree. A lot of people think, well, it's my septic. Why should I pay a surcharge or be charged for dealing with my own sewage when the taxpayer is not paying for that? It's their own thing. But if it breaks down, it breaks down. Now, of course, you should switch and join the party, you know. But that's basically it. It's always been a tough issue, you know, how to supply water and how to pay for it, and who should get it and who shouldn't, you know. But again, the world shares water, and we have to work at that. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question will be a 1-minute response, and we'll start with Bob. How would you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Trent Hills?
An interesting question. I think part of the problem we've had, I think, recently is we don't have ways to communicate. I had a chat with a business owner the other day who said he felt through the pandemic he didn't see me enough, and I said, well, we did a video every week and we put it on Facebook. And he said, I'm not on Facebook. And I thought about that, and I think going forward, we're going to have to look at a way to inform people, because we don't have the same papers that we used to have. You don't get things to the door. Someone suggested at one of our ward meetings that maybe we need to put a billboard in each municipality or each urban center somewhere, and then people would be able to
Thank you.
go there.
Mike?
Yeah, thank you. It is a challenging time. I mean, we've got a younger generation that doesn't get off this thing, and we've got an older generation that likes the paper that we've lost, and we've got a middle generation that I'm not. I mean, all my notes are in paper right now, so finding that solution is challenging. And I know with me, my phone is there, and I'm there with my email, and I'm willing to answer that sort of thing. At what level of discussion we need to think about too. The one process is every 4 years you have that chance to decide who is going to make decisions for you, and that's what we're sitting here doing. We're pitching to you is do you want us to help make those decisions, whether that's a small or whether that's a large. When we get into bigger projects, we need to be able to get out there and talk and say, how can we do this, such as the Wellness Center, which that information has been forever, I guess, stopped.
And Bill?
Yeah, this is an important issue. People need to be informed, and I can't say much more than has been said. We do live in a changing time, and it's difficult for certain people to access information through electronic process. Everybody likes that mail. You can guarantee you can put it up on your fridge and look at it. But the world's changing. We have to change with it, and we have to inform people and help them understand how to access the information they're looking for, and so they can get the results they're looking for. Thank you.
Susan?
Well, I'm a great fan of the paper. That's just who I am. I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning, my coffee and my 3 newspapers, and I'm going to be a happy girl. I think it's fine and well to say that we have to do something for our residents to bring them up to speed so that they'll be on the computer and they'll do Facebook. But that's disregarding what their wants and needs are. Our senior population have paid into our community, and I think we can try a little harder to keep them informed at the level that they are comfortable with. We do have a community paper. It only comes out once a month. Perhaps we should be talking to Nikki and seeing how she would feel and what would it take to get her to print something every 2 weeks and make it a little bit more news focused. Especially after council meeting. I used to write about the council meetings, but there is that option.
Thank you. The next one is a 1-minute response as well. Why do our bylaw officers get involved only on a complaint system? Why do we have bylaws if we do not have staff out enforcing those bylaws? And we'll be starting with Mike.
Thank you. If anyone has watched council over the last 2 years, whenever something comes to the table that is bylaw related and enforceable, my first question is, if we can't enforce this, why are we putting a new bylaw in? And it is a challenge. We had one bylaw officer to enforce anything that is enforceable within the municipality. Let's go to a budget issue. Let's find another one. We do have multiple staff that are able to process parking, that sort of infraction, but the larger one's not. Why is it only complaint driven? I mean, that's the process. That's the process right now, and those complaints are to be looked at. Is it timely? Not always. But perhaps we need to look at something different. I know that staff can take a look at infractions when the talk faster.
We're gonna get through all the questions because you're doing such a great job. Bill?
Yeah, bylaws. They're an interesting thing. I mean, if we're to have a bylaw officer, they have to be out looking for things. You can't just sit there and wait for a complaint because it's quite often too late at that point. And if you're not going to enforce the bylaws, what's the point of looking for things? But we have to stay on top of our rules and regulations and make sure that bylaws are not being broken. And I can only say that just comes with more diligence, due diligence, and we probably do need more bylaw officers. Thank you.
That complaints are responded to is great. I believe we probably need more bylaw officers, and yes, I know it's a budget item, but again, it goes back to the overall image we have of our community. And if people see, the taxpayer recognizes that there are infractions and they call a municipality, then they have done their duty, and we as a municipality must respond and make sure that the issue is addressed. You may not have an immediate answer, you may not be able to quickly solve the problem, but these are the people who are paying all the salaries of all the people in the municipality. So if they call up and they've got a complaint, it behooves us to be able to respond to them in a timely manner. If you're if you weren't an employee of the municipality and you had an issue, how long would you be willing to wait?
Bob?
Let me assure you that our bylaw enforcement officer is not sitting in the office waiting for you to call. He's on the road. He's very busy. I get many calls that I refer to our bylaw officer, and it's simply a fact of not having enough people. And you know, we are looking at ways. We are having discussions about this because it is a problem. It's a problem of getting complaints. We act on the complaints, but we have quite a few. I mean, you know, with different areas, especially with building and bylaw altogether, there is many things going on, but it has not escaped us that we need to do better at this, and we're looking at ways to do it.
So the next question will be a 2-minute response. We'll start with Bill. This resident asks, why aren't more housing condos for seniors being built, and what are your ideas to support housing for seniors? Another resident asks, what can you do to help the disabled and the homeless? So we're starting with Bill in 2 minutes.
Well, it's critical. Housing for seniors is problematic. We need to scramble and find every penny we can from any source we can so that we can start building this housing. And it's just going to become more dire if we don't act on it now. It's expensive and it's time consuming, but it must be done, and we have to find the ways and be creative and get it done. You know, we need to look after our seniors, and it's a sad state right now. I have my in-laws are in long-term care, and it's not always a great situation, and a lot of people want to age in place, and there's nowhere for them to go. So we have to be creative in how we get them the housing they need. Thank you.
Susan?
We have many issues that we have to address before we can just simply put up buildings. We have a planning act, and we have to make sure that we have the infrastructure. And one of the things that we need to consider when we're doing housing for seniors in particular is that they need to be in a community environment. I'm quite content to live out in a rural setting, but I can assure you that, you know, in 20 years, I'm going to find it a big challenge to shovel that driveway. But that is the problem. We should put seniors in a downtown environment so that they have social structure, social interaction, so that they have easy access to things that they like. Timmy's, be my guest. That's also important. It goes back to a holistic approach to our community. They need to be engaged with other people. They need to be able to walk places safely. They need to be able to access their friends, their churches, their doctors. So putting them in the downtown core when all of our urban areas are already built is going to be a challenge. But again, if we find developers who are willing to help us with some of their solutions, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Everybody's looking for housing for seniors. Let's look at the best practices out there. Let's see who's doing what, and if we can copy it, there's no shame in that. And we should be doing that. We don't have all the resources to keep creating new wheels. And I believe that if we look at other people for guidance, we'll find some answers. Sorry, that was a bump.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. This is a priority, especially the county is in charge of housing, and they are working now with each of the municipal planners looking to identify land that's available to use for senior housing. It's become a priority, and I think we will see in the very near future a plan come from the province, which is where the money's going to have to come from, between the province and the feds. But right now, we are identifying areas where we can put that housing, and very much to Susan's point, it has to be someplace where people can access the services they need without necessarily having a vehicle. So it is a work in progress, and it's something that, as I say, and it's also a priority with the Wardens Caucus. They have the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus has a committee that's involved in this right now and going forward. So I think you will see steps coming forward in the very near future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Like Bob said, a lot of this with housing is county, and that's where we need to have a very close relationship with the county and understand what their mandate is and understand what they're doing, and let them know that this isn't just a Cobourg issue, this isn't just a Port Hope issue, this is also an issue in the northern part of the county, which I know they're aware of, but sometimes they just need a little nudge and a little bit of a reminder. This is also a lot to do with planning. And if we have the policies and the procedures in place on a planning level, then we can ask for the processes to be fulfilled. Tiny homes is something that we need to make sure that we have the ability to do. And that's a planning issue. Secondary dwelling options, that's something that is in place so that if you have a lot that has a dwelling, you can have a secondary dwelling for, say, a senior, so that if you have an aging parent, they can stay close to you and they can age with you. Something that we're looking at with the new hospital is a campus care. So we now have that type of housing associated also with a hospital. So campus care is something that we need to look at as well, because as you're aging, you also need those services close by. So when we're thinking about building a new hospital, what goes along with it? Accessibility, affordability, and attainability. Attainability is also a big word that follows with them. Planning, percentage of homes in multiple build need to be percentage attainable. Other municipalities have done it. Let's look at that to see what's done and what's worked and what can we work here.
Thank you. The next question is a 1-minute response, and we'll start with Susan. How well do you think council responded to a rocket engine testing site being set up in land zoned rural, and what, if anything, would you have done differently?
So the question is, how well did council handle this situation? From my perspective as a taxpayer and a resident, I don't think it was handled well. I don't know all the details, so I don't think it was handled well. What would I have done differently? Well, I would probably have spent a little bit more time looking into things. But again, this is an issue that, based on what information I've been getting, it would be very risky for me to say more, but I would just say that I don't think council handled it well, and I would have done it differently.
Bob?
Thank you. It's been said in the past, we have been advised by our lawyer that there's talk going back and forth, and we are waiting for a response from the lawyer to go forward, and that's all I can say. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, as a sitting member of council and my responsibility with the Municipality Act, at the stage that this is, it is limited to what I'm allowed to go on right now. I do support innovation. I do support business development, but let's take a look and get a solution.
Bill?
Yeah, I have to agree. I can't speak much to the situation other than what I just heard from residents who are upset that they felt there was no consultation in terms of what that industry was and whether it was on agricultural land or industrial land. There have been some, it's just a big rumor mill at this point, but I'm all for new industry coming up, or we need the jobs, we need the taxes, but we have to do it in a proper fashion, and you know, talk to the residents who would be closely impacted, and give them the information so they can make decisions and understand what's about to happen for them or to them when this sort of thing arrives at their doorstep. Thank you.
So our next question is a 2-minute response, and this question was also provided in advance. A draft bylaw and change to the official plan regarding short-term accommodation rentals was recently presented to council. What is your opinion on how Trent Hills Council should proceed with short-term accommodation rentals? And we will start with Bob.
Thank you. Well, we did have a public meeting, and there was many valuable contributions at that meeting. I believe we need short-term accommodations. They're useful to our tourism and to people visiting Trent Hills. But I think we need to put a governance model in. We need to license these. We've had a number of problems with short-term accommodations, and we've discussed it. We've looked at other models. I think, we're not alone in this ship, I guess, in that most of the communities around us that our tourist areas have been inundated with these. And let's be clear. I think in most cases, in a majority of cases, we have responsible owners that police their property. But we also have owners that are absentee owners that really don't care. They just seem to be there for the money. So my solution is to license it, and also put in rules that would have either the owner or a responsible person available within 20 minutes were there a problem at a short-term accommodation. And in licensing, I think the cost of licensing would fund the resources to have staff look after compliance and enforcement. Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. Yeah, I support the application of short-term accommodation rentals. What we hear most and most loudly is of the partying and the disrespectful locations. This bylaw needs to directly address that with enough force. That's where, it's like I said before, bylaw and force, and let's make sure that we can do it. There's no use in putting any more bylaws in place if we can't enforce them. So I would, what's in the draft, it's a 1, 2, 3 and you're out. Like, they only have so much time. If you can't fulfill and you can't follow those rules, there is an end time. This doesn't go on forever. The bylaw change needs to make these priorities accountable through the application process. And as I may have stated before, and I stated on March 10th meeting, when we considered this first report, they also need to be available for professional business people. It's not just people vacationing, but there's people coming here, physicians for one, that may need the accommodation. Business people who are looking at the area that need accommodation. This isn't all bad, it just needs to be regulated. The draft says the aspects of the regulation need to address establishment of a maximum number of guest rooms, establishment of limiting the number of guests, parking requirements, limit of the number of licenses held by an individual, requirements of the preparation of site plan and unit layouts, requirements for inspections. But there's so many points that can go into that, and it's a working document. It's moving all the time. We're not going to get it right at the very start, but that's the process, is that can move so that as we learn what we need to put in, we can adjust that.
Bill?
Well, there are many jurisdictions that have found solutions to this problem that we face, and I agree that we really need this sort of accommodation. I fully support it. We do need to license short-term accommodations, and we need owners or a proxy on the premises or nearby, and ready to respond to the problems in a reasonable time frame. We need to enforce the existing bylaws regarding noise and garbage, etc. We need to be able to revoke licenses if necessary and apply the fines if necessary. The STAs are beneficial if run properly, and we do have a need for more units and more diverse offerings in terms of accommodations. It can be a win-win for the owners and the renters alike if we manage it properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
I support STAs because we do need to have outsiders come to our community to do work. I live out by Petherick's Corners, and for the last 4 years we've had work being done there. And I know some of the people who have had these workers staying with them. And they eat out a lot, they buy groceries, they probably visit the LCBO if I'm not being stereotypic. And so we need them to be here. They've got expense accounts, and they will spend a good part of it if they can. So I support STAs, and we need to have a directory of who's got an STA, and we need to be able to go in at any time to inspect them and to make sure that the bylaw officers can get to them easily. The challenge is going to be for the people who live in rural settings on the river, who live next to somebody who's bought a cottage and has decided to rent it out. And those are the people we need to spend some time with. They have a right to peaceable enjoyment of their homes. They're here all the time. They pay taxes, and they are our residents. So the people who have had misfortune to date, we need to sit down with them and ask them, what can we do to make this accessible? We can tell them what the bylaw is going to be. 3 strikes you're out. We're going to tell them that they're going to be licensed, but we cannot ignore them. We need to spend some time and say, look, we're putting in this bylaw. This is going to happen. What can we do to make you at least be willing to put up with this until something bad happens?
Thank you. The next question is another advanced question, 2 minutes. And we're going to reverse the order this time, starting with Bill. We're getting very close to the end. We've got 3 questions left. So 2 minutes and starting with Bill. If elected, how will you support and grow local tourism, business, and industry? Businesses have been hard hit during the pandemic and need all the help they can get. What is your plan to keep our small business community thriving?
Well, we do have existing organization like our Chamber of Commerce and the BIA. My son just got a job with the BIA. He says they're a great organization. And they're there to help local businesses with strategies and getting grants to help grow their businesses. So we have to make sure we are helping all businesses avail themselves of this resource. We have an economic development officer. Let's support that work and perhaps grow that department. We need to find ways for us to work together as a whole community and to make all of Trent Hills a destination for tourism. We already have many festivals and events, and there's certainly room for more. We have to find ways to cooperate and create meaningful experiences for tourists throughout the whole of Trent Hills. You know, perhaps linking events through our different towns and coordinating schedules. Incredible Edibles in Campbellford, Hastings Waterfront Festival, Wartworth's Lilac Festival are great events. You know, what else could we do to offer tourists once they, like, what could we offer tourists once they are here for that? They need other things to fill that time up, you know, to make that a longer stay and spend more money here, you know. So let's try and, I think we have to try and remove as much red tape as possible and respond to the requests in a timely manner. Perhaps we need more staff in these departments. We have to welcome innovation and new ideas and facilitate their development in a timely manner. Thank you.
Mike?
Right, reverse, forgot. I think we need to continue our strong partnerships and collaboration with organizations such as the Chamber. The Chamber is responsible under the municipality to look after and promote our tourism, and they do a great job. Strong relationships with regional tourism organizations to accept the cooperative marketing, such as our Trent Severn Trailtown initiative, which started just a few years ago. That drives our tourists from community to community. It links us outside of our municipality and makes people travel around. That one is mainly water focused, but there's also components of it as once they get here, what can they do outside the water? As chair of the Trent Hills Community Development Advisory Committee, we worked at enhancing the community improvement plan over the last year. That's a $75,000 annual budget, which you heard earlier. It includes facade improvement, including mural installations this past year, accessibility improvements, building and planning fee rebates, design study rebates, agritourism, and tourism signage. So currently, annually, $75,000, like I said, but there's unused reserves, which gives a greater opportunity to improve our leverage. I would also support in the future to look at the reallocation of increased funds for that. As we keep going, it becomes more difficult to do projects with, everyone knows that wonderful word, inflation. To support our street level storefronts, to make sure our downtowns have street level floor businesses. And our growth, we need to be site ready. Do we have serviceable areas for business and industry? We need to know our value positions. What's valuable in our area? What services do we have? What workforce do we have? These you can provide to businesses wanting to relocate.
Thank you. Bob?
Thank you. Well, as Mike said, and I think Bill alluded to it, that our fee for service contract with for tourism services with the Chamber is a great investment. Our community has an excellent reputation and a great presence in the media. The Chamber staff support our businesses very well, and they are a satellite for the Business and Entrepreneurial Center for Northumberland County, which provides a number of programs to support businesses and industry. Our CIP program helps with initial costs for improvements to the commercial facade and signage, and that's another great investment. It leverages private investment by businesses and property owners Our staff work with property owners to assist with connecting those looking to open new businesses or expand. They also act as a liaison between the municipality and the business associations. I think that, you know, as a council, we're also looking at, when we're talking to developers, we're trying to see if we can get more commercial space into what they're doing. Because right now, we have more requests for businesses looking for opportunities to come into our municipality and open a business than we have storefronts. So it's a work in progress, but it's a good problem to have as we go forward. Thank you.
Susan?
I was waiting for the two to start. I think the question started off, what can we do for businesses? And I think tourism is certainly an important thing, but I've had the good fortune of talking to a resident who has already started to talk to some of the businesses in our community. And he's looking at something that I had been doing research on, and I'm very excited about, and I'm hoping that once I'm elected, I'll be able to work with this gentleman and some of the businesses that are already in town. We need to find employment for the people that live here. If we have employment and we keep our people here, they will spend the money, they will be part of the tourism, they will go to our festivals, they will bring their families and friends, and so it goes. But if you have been on a volunteer organization like I have, we are loath to go back to Canadian Tire because 5 other organizations have been there before us asking for donations. And so we need to bring more businesses to this community. And we need to ask the current businesses what businesses will augment their businesses or complement their business. What are we doing? Let's not fly at this blindly. I think there's a real need in our community to find things that will help us out with what we have now. And I believe that we'll bring in new people for sure, but let's make sure we're looking at the people here in our community. Make sure we have good employment opportunities. Make sure that we are providing the people who've already invested in our community with as much support as we can. They will continue to support us. We know that, and we have to be grateful for that, but we need to make sure that we are showing that we are interested in them and their needs before we go looking for other people.
Thank you. Our next question is a 1-minute response, and we'll start with Mike. When there is an issue in the community that leads to a division of opinions among residents, what actions would you take to heal that divide? And while they're pondering that for a moment, thank you everyone for those of you that have been sitting here for over 2 hours.
Thanks, Nancy. I think it's about being open. I know that I began this term as a councillor in Hastings, and of course that's where I'm representing. The last 2 years I have been able to be deputy mayor, and it's been great. But what we've done as a council, and what I strive to do, is think of the municipality as a whole, and really we need to look at what are those differences, and try to communicate how we're looking at rectifying those. I mean, there's always been a historical rift, and I think since I've been here, it's a lot better. I didn't go through amalgamation. I didn't go through the issues of 2000 and 2001. So the more people that we get here, the more they don't understand that there really shouldn't be that rift.
Yeah, I think we've come a long way. I believe that we, with the field house in Hastings, having the new arena being built here, and working together. I mean, I grew up in Hastings, and and there was a time when I hated everybody in Campbellford. Because we played hockey against each other, and it was a war. It wasn't a victory. But I've come past that. I belong to the Rotary Club in Campbellford. I played hockey in Warkworth. I played hockey in Campbellford. And I think we're growing together now, and that's what it's going to take. We have to realize that we're one community, and you know, yes, there's going to be times when you feel that maybe your area is not getting exactly what it needs, Joe. Yes. And but we'll get there.
So I believe that leadership sets the example. I have been in all three communities, and I have volunteered in all three communities. I did volunteer at the Hastings Waterfront Festival this past summer. I have volunteered in all of the, in Warkworth and Campbellford, and I ran last week for the hospice and work with. I think as a leader, it's my responsibility to be out in the community and talking to people and setting the tone and saying, you know what, if that's how you feel, why do you feel that way? I'm willing to listen to you. I want to hear what you have to say. And if I'm out and about and you see me everywhere, well, maybe not everywhere, then that should be an indication that, you know what, we're all in this together and we should work to solve our problems together. We're not always all going to get along. It's not possible. I don't believe that at all. So I'll lead by example.
Bill?
I agree with a lot of this. You know, as communities grow, things change, and we go from being small towns, separated by feuds and, you know, fear, and then we get amalgamated, and then we're all in the same boat apparently. Yet there's still this challenge. You know, we have to embrace diversity and welcome it. That's where you learn. That's where you learn different things from different people who come from different places, do things differently. We've got to explore that and share it and respect it. And this is how you grow into a solid, welcoming community. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last question, and similar along the same lines, 1 minute response, please. And we'll start with Bob. How would you encourage a sense of community well-being in Trent Hills?
Sorry.
So how would you encourage a sense of community well-being in Trent Hills?
Well, I think we've grown as a community. I think we, I mean, I'm in each urban center every week, and I talk to people, and I don't get a disconnect as far as one community to the other. So I think, you know, we are on the path of being a great community, and not just 3 urban centers, but a community that works together to the benefit of all. And I see that with the different organizations that are working in each of the urban centers, and I see them work together to accomplish things so that they're not in conflict on a weekend when there's too many things going on. Sorry.
Thank you. Susan?
I think things are coming together. I've lived here for over 8 years, and I have heard what everybody has, or not everybody, but I've heard what people are saying that sounds a little bit divisive. But I think those of us who are not from here, don't have bones in the graveyard, if we are respectful, and I think that's what the people who have the bones in the graveyard want, is our respect. We are moving in here. I haven't come to tell you how to do anything. I'm here to share with the life you are leading. I chose to come here because what I saw when I drove through looked fabulous. So don't assume that I'm here to tell you what to do, because I'm not. I'm here to share with what you have created and to be a part of it and to help out in any way I can.
Bill?
Oh, it's a good one. Yeah, I believe that, you know, we have to work together. If we're not sharing our views and our ideas, we're working against each other. things change, new people come, people go, you know, there's people have been here a long time, a short time. I'm new, I'm only here 3 odd years, you know, but I've learned to respect people. I've met many good people, and I think there is a lot of respect here, and we have to maintain that. People want to come here, and they need to know that they would be welcome here, and that we would work together to make this this community greater than it already is. It's a beautiful place to live, and I'm proud to be here. Thank you.
Mike?
I'm going to take a little bit of a different road at community well-being and talk about individual well-being and business well-being, because I think they work together for a whole community. Individual well-being, you know, is it physical well-being, mental, emotional? Those are all the pieces that, as a council, we need to make sure that we have the facilities and the services to be able to provide. And that will give the groundwork for the well-being of a community. Make sure we have those outdoor spaces that people can utilize. Make sure that we are inclusive, an inclusive community, and promoting that from within for individuals. For business well-being, as a council, we need to be supportive. We need to have those policies and procedures in place to support the businesses, to attract businesses, so that that community, the business community, also has its well-being.
Thank you. Closing remarks, 2 minutes. We'll reverse the order from when we started. We'll start with Bill.
Thanks again to the Chamber for organizing all of these events. They've been very informative, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you all for taking time to come here, for caring about your community and engaging in the issues that concern you. As a deputy mayor, your issues are my issues. I can't promise I can solve them all, but I can promise I will work hard to, with the new council, to address your concerns. You know, many have told me they want more transparency and accountability. I can promise I will make that a priority. That's important to me. Many have told me they want change. You know, one of the reasons I'm running is that I feel voters should always have a choice. I hope that choice is me, so I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. You don't need to hear me talk anymore. I've hardly been able to get in my 2 minutes every time, and I've been stopped. I'm devoted to ongoing community involvement. I have in the past. I'm not going to dwell on what I've done and what I do there. I think my actions show more than what my words can today. But listening, learning, and understanding, those are 3 words that really guide me, because listening is the first thing that you need to do if you're going to understand what you need, how you need to go forward. So I mean, at that's where I stand, and like I said, you've heard me for the last I don't know, 2 hours, and if you don't know what I'm about by now, then I don't know what else I can give you.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone for attending. Thanks to Nancy and Karen and the Chamber for hosting this meeting, and the 3 ward meetings so far, and the 2 that we'll have next week. On October the 24th, you elect a mayor, a deputy mayor, and a council to represent you for the next 4 years. I'm an experienced leader who's approachable, a committed community builder, and over the last 4 years has led a council that has worked together to build a municipality you can be proud of. Being the mayor of Trent Hills also brings the position of county councillor, and for the last 2 years, my peers have elected me to serve as warden and sit on the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, which brings together the wardens and some mayors from Peterborough County to the Quebec border to advocate in areas of mutual concern like broadband, long-term care, and the Cell Gap project. My experience in both these positions will give Trent Hills a voice, and it will carry their concerns to the upper level of government, and I would ask for your support on the 24th. Thank you.
Susan?
So I knew this question was coming, and I thought, what can I say? You've probably read a lot of interviews about me and stuff, so let me say this. At the Ward 1 meeting, one of the questions was, if somebody gave you $1 million, what would you do with it? And the answer was, well, you can't do much with $1 million. Well, here's my answer for that, and this should tell you a little bit about me. I know that with $1 million, John Russell would be standing here with his hand out for the hospital foundation saying, how much of that am I getting?
Yeah.
I promise you that. He'd get half of it. The other half, $500,000, $100,000 would go to each of the schools in our municipality, because I believe that children need an opportunity. And the stipulation would be that the graduating class would have to pick a project or an event or something that they were curious about or wanted to know more about. You never know what's going to spark a child's interest. So each of the schools would get $100,000, and they would be overseeing what would make a child more interested in the world around them. Beyond that, I've been here. I'm looking forward to leading you in the next 4 years. I ask for your vote, and I thank you for being here. It's been an honor to see you.
Well, a huge round of applause for our candidates for the last hour